The armory was supposed to be quiet at 2,100 hours. Instead, 3 cadets cornered the new girl inside, boots grinding on concrete, adrenaline shaking their trigger fingers. One of them shoved a training pistol against her temple and sneered. "Let's see how tough you are without your little SEAL stories." She didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even breathe differently. Because real Navy SEALs don't fear weapons. They study the tremor in the wrist holding them. Her voice was low, controlled. "Cadet, if that weapon were loaded, you'd already be unconscious." The cadets laughed. They had no idea who they were facing. No idea what she'd survived. What she'd done behind enemy lines. Or why she carried a scar on her jaw shaped like shrapnel. The one holding the gun smirked and pushed it harder against her skull. A fatal mistake. She moved. Beyond fast. Not fast. And in less than a heartbeat. The pistol was on the ground. His arm was locked behind his spine. And she whispered in his ear. "Rule 1. Never point a weapon at someone who knows exactly how to take it from you." The first cadet hit the floor with a grunt, but the other 2 were already charging. Boots scraping. Breaths shaking. Hearts pounding loud enough to echo off the armory walls. She stood still. Calm, centered, like a storm waiting for a command. The second cadet swung first. A wide, angry, undisciplined punch. She stepped inside the strike, grabbed his collar, and drove him straight into a metal rack with a force that rattled the rifles. "You're telegraphing," she said, voice steady. "Every strike tells me what you'll do next." He slid to the ground, dazed. The third cadet hesitated. Only for a second. But hesitation is death in combat. He lunged. She didn't move backward. She moved through him. A single hip pivot, a controlled sweep, and he slammed onto the concrete on his back, air gone, will gone. All 3 cadets groaned on the floor, staring up at the woman they thought was a rookie. She wasn't even winded. Not after the years she'd spent fighting in monsoon jungles. Not after crawling through desert sand with shrapnel stuck in her ribs. Not after dragging 2 wounded teammates under fire for half a mile. To her, this wasn't a fight. It was training. She crouched beside the one who pressed the gun to her head. "Listen carefully," she said, voice low, deadly calm. "I don't care who started this. I care who learns from it." He swallowed hard. She stood, turned toward the door, and without looking back added, "Class starts in 6 hours. Show up if you still want to be soldiers." Reveal hadn't even sounded yet when the 3 bruised, exhausted cadets dragged themselves into the training compound. They didn't talk. Didn't look at each other. Didn't dare speak her name. But she was already there. Standing on the mat. Boots planted. Arms crossed. Calm as dawn, sharp as steel. A shadow of respect, earned the hard way, fell across all 3 boys. She didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Didn't mention the beating she handed them. She simply tossed a training rifle at their feet. "Pick it up," she said. They obeyed instantly. What followed was 6 hours of silent, brutal instruction. Movement drills, blindfold reloads, live fire stances, room clearing, escape counters, weapon retention. Every time a cadet faltered, she corrected him before the mistake even fully formed. Every time one hesitated, she was already behind him whispering. Hesitation kills. By the end, they were shaking from exhaustion. She wasn't. When the final drill ended, she called them to attention. The sun cut a sharp line across her face, turning her eyes into something cold and fiercely alive. "Yesterday," she said, You threatened a Navy SEAL with a gun. Today, you learned why that is the last mistake anyone makes. The cadet who put the barrel to her forehead stepped forward. No arrogance now. No bravado. Just a soldier trying to understand the gap between the world he knew and the world she came from. Ma'am, he said quietly, why didn't you report us? She looked at him for a long moment. Then, because no one ever becomes a warrior without being humbled first. His throat tightened. She continued, but understand this clearly. If that had been real combat, none of you would have survived the first second. Your weapon discipline would have killed you before the enemy could. They nodded, absorbing every word. Before dismissing them, she added one final order, one that hit harder than any strike she'd thrown. Earn the uniform you wear. Earn the trust of the person beside you, because the enemy doesn't care how new you are, only whether you're ready. She turned and walked off the mat. The three cadets stood there in absolute silence, humbled, changed, and now fully aware. Why you never threaten a Navy SEAL.